Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Adventures with Dice and I'm Rob, your host, and today we are going to be talking about tags and how you can use tags in your game prep to make your room descriptions a lot easier and a lot faster. And this can really, it does come from Icrpg, but it can really be used with pretty much any RPG. I'm focusing primarily on fantasy in this video, but it would work with basic fantasy, D&D, Savage Worlds, anything where you're writing down a description for the room that you want to give to your players. So let's jump into it and talk about tags. So tags are first introduced to us, as far as I know, in the 2nd edition core rulebook in the weapons section, and tags are keywords that are given to the weapons. And like let's look at a weapon like a longsword is deadly, large, and sharp, or an axe is useful, durable, and thrown. And then they have there's a section here that describes what each of these tags means. Now, you can change these, and it tells you this is not an exhaustive list. These tags are there to sometimes give you role-playing elements to add to a weapon, and sometimes they are designed to give you actual mechanical elements to add to a weapon. But I was, over the holiday weekend, watching some of Kane Kiln's, I think I'm saying that right, videos. I'm going to put a link to his tags video in the description here. And he's got one called Fun with Tags, and he touches on what I'm going to touch on, or what I'm going to go into today, but he goes into tagging other stuff, monsters and whatnot. It's a really good video, and also I think useful regardless of which system that you're using. But what I have, it gave me an idea, and I started playing around with it and using tags in room descriptions, in my room design. Now, yeah, I play with miniatures and terrain boards and things like that I've put out for my players. But so yeah, they have the visual of the room. But I always try to, and when I say room, it could be indoors, outdoors, it doesn't matter. But it's the encounter. And when I say, when I put it out there for them, I also try to give a descriptive text to the encounter or the room. And sometimes in that descriptive text is a hint to what the treat for the room might be. Now, again, I'm going to be focusing on Icrpg, but tags can really be used in anything. And the beauty of using tags like this is you are making notations for yourself that are going to help you when you actually run the game to remember your descriptive idea for the room. And you just kind of take those 3 tags and then describe the room using those 3 tags. Now, it doesn't have to be 3. I suggest 3, but because that's what I use and it helps a lot. But you could use, there's no hard, fast rules for this. You could use whatever you want, 2, 4, whatever. I just use 3. Now, in my GM's notebook, I have a page that has my GM Tools tags page on it. And I have a bunch of tags listed down here, and they're just descriptive words that I wrote down, like dark, damp, moist, stinks, mold, ruin, crumbling, creepy, haze, smoke, slippery, dusty, tatters, clean, shiny, lit, spooky, alien, common, elegant, loud, nasty, sturdy, small, large. And again, this isn't an exhaustive list. This is just some tags that I wrote down for the purposes of doing this video and showing the example that I'm going to show. So you could always add to this if you have other descriptive tags that you want to use. I suggest just making a list of tags and what they mean to you in your notebook somewhere, and then repeatedly using those tags over and over again, which in Kane's Fun with Tags video, he goes into a lot, like with the skeleton. When he looks at the skeleton, the first tag is undead. And then what does undead mean to him as a game master when he's designing an encounter with the undead? And by using that over and over, you get very used to thinking about that creature in that aspect. So we're going to do the same thing here. Now, in this example, because it's Icrpg, you have your room, your tags, your threat, your timer, and your treat listed out. And I just did this format box to make it easy. But your room, you would give the room number or the type of room. And then your tags, I put give 3 tags. And then your treat, is it a monster? Is it a trap? Is it a role-playing threat? Is it a environmental threat? Whatever. And then you have your timer, which list what kind of, you're going to list what kind of timer. It's usually a D4, but you could use a D2, a D5, a D6, whatever you want to, whatever kind of timer you want to use. And then something bad happens when that timer runs out, which, and then the treat, of course, is what can help the players. So threats and timers and treats are nothing new. If you're playing Icrpg, you understand how those work and how they play into room design, because all of us writing adventures for this game, we use it all the time. But the important part is tags. And I had this discussion with my friend Haley the other night. She's running a game for us on Fridays, and we play Dark Places and Demogorgons right now. And again, this can be used with anything. And she was talking about how there were some areas in the map that she has that she hasn't gone in and fully fleshed out. So let me start by saying, if you want to take every area that players can explore in your game, and you want to write a paragraph or 2 paragraphs or whatever description of that, and you enjoy doing that, that's fine. That's cool, because I've done it for years. But the reason I am exploring tags in this manner is because it makes creating the description for areas on the fly really, really fast. So what I mean by that is I also have an example here. Now in this example we're doing, I listed it as Dungeon Chamber number 3. And it's got its threat, it's got its timer, it's got its treat. So in this one the threat is Goblin Raiders hiding in the shadows. Alright, the timer, call for help, is in 1d4 turns. They call for help and more goblins arrive. And then you have your treat, which there is an escape. There's a secret door that lets the PCs avoid the goblins altogether. And that's just how you would list out normal 3 Ts, threat, timer, and treat for a room. But the tags are what is important here. So the tags for this particular dungeon chamber, I put dark, mold, and stinks. Now the reason that I did it like that is because a lot of times I write adventures sometimes weeks before they ever get played. And there is something that is just more fluid about you being able to roll a description off your tongue as opposed to reading it from your notes. The less you have to look at your notebook and read, the better off you are. Hank Farnell has talked about this on Runehammer, and he's absolutely right. And that's one reason I tried to apply tags to rooms in this manner. So when my players enter Dungeon Chamber 3 or whatever, I know by just a quick glance at my tags that this chamber is dark, there's mold everywhere, and it stinks. So I can play that into my description just from those 3 tags. I can go, yeah, you enter into this chamber, you've got it laid out on the table. So when you enter into this door, the first thing you notice is that it's really dark in here. It's almost impossible to see without a light. Boom. Instantly, that lets your players get in the mindset of We need to light a torch. We need to light a lantern. We need to cast some kind of light spell, because we don't want to be at a disadvantage when the monster, the threat, attacks. By saying that there's mold, my players are automatically going to be worried that I've got spores in the air or something like that, because they dealt with that this past week in a game, and man, there was a lot of getting sick, the characters getting sick because they kept failing their con checks. But that mold lets them know that this room is possibly dangerous to breathe in and has not been well kept or taken care of. And then I can talk about the smell in the air. There's a smell that is just, like someone has used this room as their toilet or whatever. But having those 3 tags gives me an instant mental picture that I can just roll off a description with. Yeah, you can't see anything in the room. It's really, really dark, so you're going to need some kind of light source if you want to be able to see beyond the couple of feet of the doorway. And the one thing you can see immediately is that there is mold covering the floor and goes out into the darkness and could possibly be dangerous. And you get that because you just wafted with the smell as soon as you've entered this chamber, and this smell is just horrid. It smells really, really bad, and you when you enter this chamber, you're immediately going to have to make con saves to keep from throwing up. So all of that description just came from 3 tags, 3 words that I wrote down. This can work in multiple games for room design, like I said before. And we were talking about that, and I'm hoping that Haley does that with some of the rooms that she still has to flesh out in her game, because it really does make things a lot faster. No, I'm not writing out a lot of description. I'm literally giving each area that the players can go into a tag, so to speak, or 3 tags, so to speak, and using that as just, mental cues to pop off a description that I can use to really set the scene in each encounter that they go into. And you don't have to draw the boxes, because I took the exact same formula and wrote it down here, and you could just write in your notes on the paper, just write, your room, still dungeon chamber number 3, your tags, dark, mold, stinks, and then I put my threat timer and treat down here, and you end up with the same thing. Now, you may not be using threats, timers, and treats in your notes, but I highly recommend trying out tags. You can just Google descriptive words and come up with tons and tons of tags that you can write in your notebook and use when you're designing adventures. And it's going to save you a ton of time when planning stuff out, because one of the things that used to eat up so much time in room design or encounter design when I was doing it for other games before I started playing Icrpg was all the descriptive text that I would have to write out for everything, because I didn't want you to, it's really, really boring when, okay, it's another empty, 15 by 15 room with a doorway or a stairwell or whatever. You want to give each room a little bit of personality, and I think tags is a fantastic way to do that without putting a ton of work in, because you can, when you're laying out your dungeon or high-rise apartment or inside of a spaceship or abandoned facility, as you're planning out where those encounters are going to take place, you can just list each one with its threat timer and treat if you're using it. But even if you're not, you can just list each one with 3 tag words and use those tags, and I wouldn't use them until the players explored it. Because that's also frustrating too, is when you write a ton of information about particular areas and then your players don't ever go there. So you've just wasted all that time, and time is important. And this is a way that I have found that really, really saves time. It makes room design and adventure design super fast. And I highly recommend giving it a shot. If you start doing this and you find out that you like it, or you've come up with some other cool tag words that you want to use, drop them in the comments below. If you have other tips and tricks for making adventure design faster, drop those in the comments below as well. We always like to read that kind of stuff and talk about it. But if you get a chance to try tags, I highly recommend it. It is a lot of fun. It actually brings the fun back to room design for the game master, because it can get stale after a while, trying to describe the smells and the air and what the texture of everything is like when you go in somewhere. So give it a shot, see how you like it, and then let me know in the comments. And of course, always do the YouTube thing, you know, the like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. And again, check out the stuff in the doobly-doo below. I'll have the link to Kane or Kahn's, I'm not sure, Kiln, his video on having fun with tags. I suggest going and watching it too. He does a really good job with it. But then, yeah, come back and let me know what you think. And until next time, my friends, good gaming.